Yes, you're all set.
All right. Welcome everyone to the Altaccountant Focused Practice Workshop. So let's talk about this introductory webinar to get sort of an idea of what this webinar is all about. There's 3 potential target audiences for this webinar. One, for the folks that have already registered to the Altaccountant workshop that starts November 18th. It will be an orientation for you. So this will give you a really good idea of what the next couple of weeks is going to look like starting next week, exactly what we're going to be talking about, what the exercises are going to be, what the transformation process is, what the time expectation is. So this is going to be orientation for everyone that has signed up already. A second potential target audience is for the folks that have attended a mini course. I made a mini course about a month ago preparing for my QuickBooks Connect in-person training. It was about a 2-hour webinar. And for the same group of people that did attend the 2-hour the 2-hour class over at QuickBooks Connect. And the third one is people that don't qualify for any of those two, but might be just curious to what we got to say. There's no QuickBooks. There's no like sort of hard technical training today. You will get something out of today's webinar for sure. For sure, whether you signed up or not, whether you want to be part of the program or not, you're going to get something out of it, I guarantee you. For the folks that attended QuickBooks Connect, please start typing your questions. Start typing your questions in the Q&A box. I'm going to monitor the questions, and then after I'm done with the presentation, about halfway through, I'm going to go ahead and answer all those questions live. Questions about the concepts that we're covering, questions about the concepts that I covered at QuickBooks Connect, or questions about the webinar mini course that you watched about a month ago when I went live with it. So just curious, could you put in the chat box or in the Q&A box, actually put in the chat box, which one do you belong to out of these 3 groups, right? So were you at QuickBooks Connect? Have you already signed? Well, I know who signed up, but or are you just curious to see what we got to say? So just put in the chat box there, give me an idea more or less to what's going on. Perfect. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So the table of contents this presentation will be about about an hour long, right? So we're going to be we're going to spend about 30 minutes talking about the concepts, and then 30 minutes doing open Q&A. We're going to talk about the pillars to success, which is positioning, pricing, and innovation, which I believe are bedrocks to advisory. I think the future of our profession is advisory for many, many reasons. One, because automation and artificial intelligence will take the jobs of a lot of the things that we do now. So I think that if we are best positioned to give advice, we will be impervious to the change in technology. So I think that positioning, pricing, and innovation are the 3 most important things that you kind of have to take on in your practice in order to get there. Second, we're going to talk about what is the focused practice workshop. This is going to be the orientation part. You're going to see exactly what we're going to teach during the workshop, and give you an idea, get the juices flowing, get you energized about what the next couple of weeks is going to look like. Then we're going to do a framework of the traditional exercises. So I'll give you an idea more or less what are the exercises that I believe you must do in order to get to where I want you to get. And then lastly, we'll leave it open for Q&A. So that's the table of contents. That's what you're expecting to see in the next hour or so. So we're going to get started with the pillars to success. I think that there's 4 pillars to success in our industry for 2020 moving forward. The number 1 most important pillar is to become a specialist. But not just become a specialist, learn how to communicate your specialty. A lot of the people I speak to, my colleagues, my peers, they say they're specialists, or they want to be a specialist, or they're really, really good at one thing, or they're really, really good at one type of client, but they don't communicate it right. They don't have it in the business card. I must have shaken 100 to 200 hands at QuickBooks Connect, and I got a lot of business cards from people. And everybody's business card says something like, "We help small businesses grow." It sounds great, but it is so generic. It doesn't say anything. Like when your target client is willing to pay top dollar, want to hire you, they want to know that you're more than just a generic accountant that can help anyone with their business grow. They want to know that you focus and you're really, really good at helping that type of client. So for that, we teach the basic framework, which is I am the X for Y, that one Z, right? So X would be what you call yourself, Y is what the customer calls themselves, and Z is where they want to be. So I've usually say something like, I'm a QuickBooks Enterprise consultant for manufacturers that want to take more vacations. This is what I say. I'm a QuickBooks Enterprise consultant. That's what I call myself. Manufacturers, what they call themselves. Z, want to take more vacations, means that they finally learn how to delegate, they made money, they have good systems, they can finally take a vacation. So when you can communicate sort of your purpose, your why, what you do, why you do it, and who you do it for, when you communicate that, everything flows, everything follows. That's just a really, really important concept. The second pillar here is mastering the value conversation. I think that you can leverage pricing, you can strategically use pricing to create context around the value that you provide. So what that means is when you speak to a customer, and most customers want you to do everything, right? They'll list a plethora of things that they want you to do, or they expect you to do, or they misunderstand what your role as an accountant or bookkeeper is, and they just assume that you're going to do everything for them, right? So when you learn how to have a conversation that exposes potentially everything they want, what we want to do is we want to structure the offerings to include everything they want, some of what they want, or just the fundamental into 3 packages priced strategically. So your client, so instead of you telling the client, I won't do that, your client will choose what you're not going to do. And when your client makes proactively the choice at first to what they don't want you to do because they did it with price, remember, price is the context around the value. People choose a lesser service, or it could go the other way, right? They could choose a higher service, but they choose to pay more. So instead of you being the bad guy saying, oh, we don't do that, that's not included, that's not part of the scope, you're actually giving the client choices before you get started, which requires you to ditch hourly billing. It requires you to forget about billing in arrears, and it requires you to learn how to price up front. So that's the second big pillar to success. The third one here is productized services. I think that as the world moves really, really fast and people want really, really quick answers, and you get really, really good at the value conversation, you're going to start spending more time with your current clients, more time with your prospects. That means that as your marketing gets good and leads come in the door, you want some of these leads to be channeled through a productized service. So a productized service is what we call a self-scoped work. That means you pre-create a service package that you don't have to sit for an hour and talk to the client. The client will go through and see what is included, what's not included, what's the process, what's the experience, what's the outcome, and they'll buy from there. And that's how you will get clients in the door. And I'm going to do an example of that. That's going to make tons of sense. It's one of my favorite things in the world is to help people create productized services. As a matter of fact, I even help my clients create productized services. And that's one of the most valuable advisory things that you can do. And then once you get really, really good at creating a productized service, you will then become good at creating a spin-off from it, which is a sustainable subscription service model, which I also believe to be the future of all service professions. These clients are expecting these service providers to be like apps, right? They'll be like an app. They'll go somewhere, they click a button, they get the information right away. But you can't offer a subscription service to your firm until you understand how to productize the service. Essentially, selling a service like if it was a product. And then the last pillar here would be focus on advisory. Again, you have to be able to have a focused positioning strategy. You have to get really, really good at value conversation and value pricing, and then always be innovating, creating new products and services. So then you can add to that advisory services. So we're gonna learn how to create the service offering and how to execute on it. So that's a really important piece. Okay, what is the workshop all about? So we're gonna start November 18th, Monday, November 18th, and we end Friday, December 20th. It's technically a 4-week workshop. We're gonna have a small break during Thanksgiving, so it actually spans over 5 weeks, but it's actually, the exercises themselves is 4 exercises, 1 per week. We're gonna have meetings via Zoom Okay, so we're going to meet 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And it requires a time commitment, including the homework and all those meetings, of 8 to 10 hours a week. Some of you might be able to pull it off in 6, but I think for the most part, it's good to set the expectation, 8 to 10. Nothing worth doing, it's easy. This is going to be hard. It's going to take a lot of work. But the good thing is we're going to have 5 people in your group. It's going to be group-based. So we're doing 4 to 5 people in the group. It's going to be group-based, and you'll be doing the assignments together. You'll be doing a positioning assignment, individual assignment per each, but all together helping each other, because each of you are going to have your own unique plan, but you will give each other feedback. That I hope that this becomes a living document or plans for the future, so you can transform your practice into this Altaccountant philosophy. My second hope here is that you become friends in that group, and after this is over, you guys create your own sorry about that. You create your own mindshare group, your own brain trust group, brainstorming group, whatever you want to call it, right? You create your own groups and you meet on your own and you bounce ideas of each other and you help each other grow forever. I mean, that would be ideally, because you will realize how amazing it is to sit down in front of 4, 5 people, present your ideas, and having all these different suggestions coming in. Now, while I strongly believe, and Michael as well, who's going to help me with this program, that group feedback is key and the collaboration is key, you will also get personalized feedback from us. So if we'll tell you what we think about your strategy, about where you're moving forward. Now, at this point, I mean, this is very close to the beginning of the date. Unfortunately, this basically bumped up into the big conference, so it was difficult to, I didn't have time to promote this even more before. We're going to have 2 more groups that we're going to open, a maximum of 10 spots. And the deadline to register is this Thursday the 14th, end of day. Because we need to be able to put people into groups. So we're going to try to, we already have a few people, so we're going to put people into groups and try to create as much diversity of thought as possible to maximize the idea. So we're not going to put 5 people that specialize all in the same thing. We actually want people to be from different walks of life so they can see things and come from different angles. So I'll talk about the pricing and how to sign up at the end. I'll tell you the price real quick. The price of the program is $3,250, $3,250, $3,250, and there's a coupon for $750 for people that attend this webinar. So it'll come out to $2,500. So that's your cost investment. You pay $2,500, and your time investment is from November 18th to the 20th. You meet 3 times a week. Between the homework and the meetings and the webinar learnings, is going to be 8 to 10 hours per week, right? I strongly believe that this is all, the price is right, the timing is right, and the exercises are right. This is not the first time we do this. We did this before. All 6 people that graduated from one experimental group love the program. They keep talking to each other. They even keep holding each other accountable for changes, which is a beautiful thing for me to watch that friendship grow and watch these people sort of help each other moving forward. All right, so let's go through the content that we're going to cover. And like I said, whether you sign up for the program or not, I think you will get something out of this webinar. And this is that part, right? The part where you get something out of the webinar. So if you have never heard the Altaccountant concept, okay, so this is going to be a great introduction for it. And also at the same time, in parallel, remember, these are the exercises that we're going to do as a group. So 1, specialized, right? People confuse specialization and niche market. I don't know why, but they do. Specializing is what you do. This is accountant centric. Specializing is that one thing, that unique skill, that thing that you want to be known for, what you do better than everyone else, what you do quick, what comes easy to you. It's like a trademark, unique skill. That's a really important thing to bring out to the open and learn how to communicate that and make that part of your brand. Second is your niche market, which is a little bit different. Niche market is the customer that you target for marketing purposes. It's not the same thing as your specialization. Like, I specialize in inventory, that's my specialty, but my niche market is manufacturing, right? They're 2 separate things. Now, they're tied together. It's logical that manufacturers need inventory skills, but I communicate to manufacturers, and what makes me stand out is I'm really good at inventory, right? So you identify both things separately, your specialty and your niche, and then we're gonna create communication strategy around mixing the two. So the other important part of communicating your communication strategy is your customer is the hero, not you. You, the accountant, you are not the hero. I know you want to be. I know you feel that you are. I know you do a great deal of sacrifices, but you are not the hero. Your customer is the hero of the story. You are their guide. You are their guide. Think of Star Wars. Think of Yoda. Okay, your customer is Luke Skywalker. You are Yoda. You're there to say the right things, give the right tools, and enable the right behaviors so your customers realize from within their full potential. You guide them into transportation, into transformation. So you need to make sure that we learn how to communicate that when we present our unique positioning statement. So if you can hone down on what's your role as the guides, as the guide to your customers' hero transformation story, that would be a compelling story to tell. People will be attracted towards you. The second point here is you don't have to drop all your current customers. You don't. People get freaked out about going to niche or specialty. It's like, oh, I have to drop my customers. You don't. You're just going to stop marketing to them, right? Your marketing will be focused towards your niche client. And the reason for that is because niche customers pay more than non-niche customers. That's fact. That's fact. And why is that? Because customers understand that you have a smaller customer pool. Customers understand that you do that and just that. And customers understand that you're faster and better because you do the same thing over and over and over. And that you can communicate with pride. You can say, when the customer says, oh, why are you more expensive than whoever? And your clear answer is, look, this is not a fair comparison. You're comparing me to a generalist. A generalist can afford to have 100 clients. I can't. I can only have 20 clients. A generalist has to have their head in 100 different industries. My head is only in one industry. I'm focused on you, your needs, your type of business, right? So you can charge more as a specialist. And the most important thing is you want to be known by the clients you don't take. That's a really powerful statement. Most people think that their clients define them. I think the clients I say no to with confidence and pride, that's what defines me. You want to be known by the clients you don't take. And in order to do that, you have to have a sound, unique positioning strategy. The next one is value conversation and consultative sales. So that's going to be week 2. We're going to be focusing on this. The best way to explain this is through quotes. I'm going to say a couple of famous quotes and kind of go through them real quick. So 1, first seek to understand, then be understood. This is from Stephen Covey. First seek to understand, then be understood. Every accountant I speak to, when we talk about value pricing, the standard answer is, my clients don't understand my value. Think about that. Do you yourself feel that your clients don't understand your value? Do you think that's the biggest hurdle? And the problem is because we are so focused on helping our clients understand our value that we fail to take the first step, which is we need to understand what's valuable to them. And as obvious as this may sound, it is the cardinal sin that almost every professional makes. Spend way too much time explaining how good they are, how much of an expert they are, what makes them different, their skills, their education. Most accountants highlight that on their website. Go to any accountant website, go to your website. It all talks about you. We do this, we do that, we have this awards, we have this achievement. It says nothing about your customer. It says nothing about the hero that you're trying to transform. It says nothing about your limited role as a guide to understand your client's needs and to get them there. So I think that that's a really important piece of the value conversation, is sort of this philosophical concept that you have to first seek to understand, then be understood. The next one is prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. Prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. Prescription with a diagnosis is malpractice. Would you walk into a doctor and say, hey, I think I need a quadruple bypass? And the doctor says, yep, let's do it. That's our highest ticket item in the hospital. Perfect. You want that? Great. Let's get you into the OR. It doesn't work like that, right? Doctors pride themselves that they prescribe. They prescribe. See, customers walk in self-prescribing all the time. And if you're a true expert, if you create value, if customers want to rely on you as this, beacon of hope and light, you have to be able to say no, slow the client down and say, let me prescribe, okay? Mr. Customer, you can tell me what ails you, but I will prescribe the treatment. The customer can tell you what ails them, but you as the expert, you prescribe the treatment. So I love this quote, and I think it says a lot about the consultative sales approach to value conversation. Another quote that I like a lot is from Blair Enns, is the sale is the sample. The sale is the sample. Your sales process is a sample of what the engagement will look like. If your sales process is all about understanding your client's needs, not about what you do for them, what they need. If the sales process is about understanding, it's about compassion, it's about aligning yourself with the client, your client is going to feel that this is going to be a great engagement. Think about it, right? Anytime you ever bought something, when the experience of buying something is deep and transformative, and it makes you feel like you learned something. And think about that. If every sales engagement, your client learns something, even if they don't buy something from you, what does that say about you as a professional? So I think this is a great quote from Blair. The sale is the sample. So we have to now bring some of our advisory skills and accounting skills to the sales process, not just to working on the computer, right? Another quote that I love is, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I know this is becoming spiritual, and this is, a little bit of that, heartfelt stuff, but this is, people buy with their gut. People like to do business with people they like. Okay, people do business with people. And a consultant, an accountant, an advisor needs to be able to portray that you care about the client's goals, not just care about how much you're going to charge the next month. Once there's a more deep spiritual sort of relationship with your client, that they don't fight the bill as much, and they don't complain about pricing as much, because you're not a provider, you're a partner, right? So people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And the last one is, after you're done talking with your client during your value conversation, during the consultative sales process, the client's going to have two questions in their mind. Are we the best deal, or can we afford this? These two questions are very different. If your client, if at the end of your conversation, their yearning question is, are we getting the best deal? Then you're going to go into price negotiation. But if at the end of your consultation, your client's question is, can we afford this? Two different things. Then it's going to be value justification. So are we getting the best deal? It's all about the price. Can we afford this? It's all about the value. So your job during the value conversation and consultative sales is to provide context to what the value is, so your client can afford, yes, I'll work with you, or no, I won't work with you. But not I'll work with you if you can beat your competitor's price. You never want to be in that position. Now, what we believe, and we're going to show you, is how to do a two-part meeting with your customers. The first one is the discovery call. Discovery call is no charge, and you're going to do 10 to 15 minutes, and it's only evaluation for fit. So there are 4 key why questions that you ask during this meeting. These are the evaluation for fit questions. Why? One is, why me? So when your customer comes to you and says, I need to hire a new accountant, can you help me? Your first question is, why me? Or, hey, what makes you think that I can help you? Or what drove you to talk to me? Or how did you hear about us? Why do you think that we should be your next accountant? Your customer needs to be able to describe to you why they were talking to you in the first place. If they can't do that, then you're just a commodity. If they can do that, you are just a commodity. Think about it. If you go to Best Buy to buy a laptop, and the salesperson says, why do you want to buy the Best Buy? And you can't answer, then you probably know that you're going to look at the computer and then go buy it in Amazon or buy it somewhere cheaper, because you're just looking for the lowest price. So if your customer cannot express in words why you, the store, the service provider, whatever, why you are the best person fit to help them, then you've done a really bad job at marketing yourself, at creating your unique market, at driving value before you even talk to your client. The second important question to ask during the discovery call is, why now? Look, why didn't you hire someone a year ago? Why didn't you switch accountants 6 months ago? Why are you not waiting till next year? What is it about now? What is it about November 11th that makes you want to switch accountants today? Think about that. It's a really powerful question to ask. The customer needs to explain to you, what are the time-related motivations? Is there a deadline? There's someone, is there a loan that they're applying for and they need to get that as soon as possible? Are they trying to bring some investors? What's priority? Why have they not prioritized this before? You want to make sure your customer tells you what is going through their mind in terms of priority. And you want to understand if your client is going to be focused on the problem at hand. If Mr. Customer, if I'm going all in to help you, I want to make sure that you're committed to this. I want to make sure that you're going to put the resources, you're going to put the time, you're going to put the attention, you're going to put your love and your tender loving care into this, because I don't work with customers that I transact with. I work with customers that I can help transform. And I'm your guide to your self-discovery of transformation. I need to know, what does the time commitment from both parties look like? I need to know what time pressure you're going to give me, what deadlines you're going to give me. The third question is, why this, right? As I mentioned earlier, most customers self-diagnose. They come in and they say, I need a new accountant, I need new tax returns, I need new whatever. You want to make sure you get your client to explain to you why the one thing that they're saying it's a problem, why is that important? And at the QuickBooks Connect conference, I explained how you go from, I need you to help my inventory, to I need you to help me retain my top talent, during 5 whys. In essence, you want to ask why enough times until you figure out that what your customer is telling you the problem is, it's not really the problem. The problem is something else. They just couldn't articulate it because the problem looked in its surface only what your customer could see, only what was within grasp. But your role in the consultative sales process is to understand what ails them, where the value comes from. And the last one is, why not? Why just ignore this whole thing? What if you don't hire me? What does the alternative future of not working with me looks like? You were doing it by yourself. You're working with a non-specialist, right? You keeping your current accountant, whatever. What does that look like? I think it says a lot about your confidence, a lot of the value you provide if you help your client figure out how to not hire you. Learning how to say no, or exuding the confidence that you're okay with saying no, makes you more exquisite. It makes you more wanted. And it's the reality. If you are going to be picky with your clients, you're going to say no probably more often than you say yes. So that's a really good exercise to communicate that you are going to be focused on only the clients you can create value for. And then the second meeting is going to be the needs assessment or the value conversation. The second meeting is always paid. Always, always, always paid. Your customers need to pay you for the value conversation, because you're going to spend between 1 and 2 hours. You're going to deep dive into sources of value. You're going to talk about priorities, help them think through priorities. You're going to set the expectation, understand their expectations, and you're going to use Mahan Khalsa's 5 golden questions to come up with a price. Mahan Khalsa's 5 golden questions is, what is the problem, right? Identify the problem. How do you measure it? What is it now? What's the value of the difference? This is the value you create. And the last one was the value over time. What is the problem? How do you measure it? What is it now? What's the value of the difference? And what's the value over time? So once you discover that the impact that you can cause has $20,000 worth of value in a 3-year mark, you know that today you can easily charge 20 to 25% of that to make this a permanent investment into perpetual value into the business. So I always charge for the value conversation because there's always work that we're doing in the process. We're providing some advice in the process, but what we're really doing is figuring out what the engagement is going to look like. And then if the client says yes, you always give the money back and apply it towards the job. That's a really important 2-piece here. So you pay me for the value conversation. If you're happy with what we're doing, I'm going to give you a price and we'll apply that towards the price. If you're not happy, that's the risk you take. Mr. Customer, that's the risk you take. Okay? The discovery call is for us to figure out if there's a fit. If we believe it's a fit, hopefully there's some value in that 50-minute call. So they're encouraged to pay for that second value conversation. Now, people ask me about how much to charge for that. Obviously, that's all subjective. That's all different. Most people charge $250. I think that's good. I charge $375, but that could be anywhere between $200 and $400. Something that there's some skin in the game. You want the client to not be distracted by anything else. You want them to turn off the phone. You don't want people to walk into the office and interrupt them. You want them to be focused on you and the work that you're going to be doing together. And I find that if they don't pay, it's not that important. Once they pay, it's important. Okay? So at the end, what we want to do is we want you to be able to construct something like this, right? A real simple 3-prong offering. So be able to offer the 3 services. We believe that each service should have its own unique name, like basic compliance, support, cash flow, whatever. They will have 3 prices. They're going to be all within, logically, these numbers here. So 5, 9, and 15. That's the number that I like to use. So whatever package looks like, I always want the middle one to be just under double the first one. And I want the highest one to be also just under double the second one. So this just creates some context around your service offering, and you can add some add-ons and more additional scope as they go higher up the food chain here in the services. Plus, you can also play with how people pay you. So, for example, the basic service is paid quarterly. The next one is annual, or the next one monthly, whatever it happens to be. You're going to give people different choices. So we're going to do a real deep dive around this one. This is actually the biggest of all the exercises. That's why we picked the Thanksgiving week, which is going to be sort of a 2-week process with a break to do this exercise. So I think you're going to love this one the most. If you get really good at coming up with this, trust me, nothing will stop you. Okay? No, believe it or not, we've been talking about value pricing and packages forever. 99% of accountants don't do this, don't know how to do this, or they do it wrong. You do this right, trust me, nothing will stop you. Okay? The last exercise here before we get to advisory is the productized service. So what we're going to do is we're going to design a service that's self-scoping, or it's got a preset scope. This is kind of the opposite of the value conversation. Once we get really good at understanding what our clients need, when we're target and specialized, you will start learning some patterns, and you will realize that 80% of customers, before you get into bookkeeping, need something else, right? And the most common things is they need to move to the cloud, or they need to modernize, or they need to clean up their books. I mean, most people will have one thing that you do for everybody over and over and over, and you'll learn that as you work with your target customers. So what I want you to do is we want you to create a service that you give it a unique name. It can have a simple name like QuickBooks Online Setup for Real Estate Professionals, but you give it a name, a full name. It has a name and a last name, and the service will have limited scope. It will have specific scope. Or you can also use quirky names like cloudification for realtors. That's just an example. So once you give the name, you give the service a unique name, it's no longer comparable. Okay. Some of the people that took the program, they even created names that weren't that they researched on the trademark to make sure the names are not taken, to make sure they can actually trademark the name. Because once you trademark a name, by definition, is unique and no one else can do it. Even if the components of the service itself are the same, if the name is unique, you can tell the client, look, I don't know what you're comparing it to. I have the trademark on that service name, so no one else can offer that. So it's just a really quick and easy way to have ownership over a specific service. And the last one is you want to design this productized service to, so the process and the workflow, this is the internal stuff from the accountant's point of view. It's very well designed and understood. That way you can do it within the allotted time. And also you want to design the experience. So we're going to show you how to design the experience from the customer's point of view. So for example, let's say we're doing a cloudification for realtors and we're helping realtors move from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online, for example. So what would that look like? What you do is you start drawing up in a smiling curve the process. Step one, we'll do a value conversation. We understand why you want to upgrade to QuickBooks Online. Second, we'll do a needs analysis. What does the current QuickBooks Desktop look like? Second, this is an example. This is an example how you design a service. The second, we're going to go through options. What will happen if they convert? What would happen if they stay? Fourth, we're going to do the actual cleanup, right? So we're going to do a cleanup work before we convert from desktop to online. Fifth, we're going to make the adjustments to make sure that the financial statements and the trial and balances all work. Fourth, we're going to clean up the list, delete duplicates, do some specific transactions post-conversion to make sure there's continuity. Next, we're going to do an analysis of third-party apps. What apps can add additional value? Next one, we're going to develop workarounds. What changes within the workflow without the app we can do to adapt QuickBooks Online to the way they're used to working. Next, maybe we'll help them choose the right apps, recommend the next app that they should be looking for. Then we're going to show them the reports, show them the results after the conversion so they feel that great, all stuff is there, everything's there, is complete. And lastly, we're going to train and support them post-conversion to make sure that they can move forward and they have the confidence that their new system works 100% towards their needs. So any productized service gets designed in this exact fashion. We go from beginning to the end. But what's interesting about the smiling curve concept is that all the value or the highest value is in the top of the U. So the value conversation, understanding why this is a good idea and doing the needs analysis, and then showing them the final product and training them and supporting them so they feel confident that the process was done correctly. That's the most valuable thing. And all the low value stuff, the actual cleanup, making the adjustments, figuring out what apps could potentially work for them, what transactions we need to enter manually to fill the gap. All that stuff is what we accountants tend to worry the most about and think is the most valuable, but it's not. So in this theory, we want to automate the beginning, right? That's why a productized service exists like that. We want to automate the beginning. That means the customers read the scope of work and they say, yep, that's perfect for me. And then we want to sell the end. So what we're going to sell is the value, which is all the way at the end. So we automate the beginning, sell the end, and then everything in between, or at least the bottom stuff, the actual data entry, we hide that as much as possible. Your customers do not value data entry. They don't value adjustments. They don't value bank reconciliations. They don't give a crap about all the work that you need to do in order to get there. But between the beginning, what you automate and what you sell, there's going to be some experiencing, some things in the front end that they're going to experience. So they're going to experience the documents you request. They're going to experience, maybe some workflow adjustments that you make with them to get the software to work towards them. So what we want to do is we want to define that experience. So that's the productized service. And then on the last here is advisory. So what we're going to be talking about is creating a custom advisory plan for your target market. So we're going to do some exercises that will help you understand what is my target need instead of advisory, and what kind of words do I use, right? So, manufacturers want to fix their messy inventory. So I want to do advisory around inventory workflows, right? Realtors need advisory around cash flow, right? Investing in marketing and stuff like that before they get paid on a deal. So that advisory plan will be different. So depending on who you're working with, your advisory process will look different. So that's what the exercise will be about helping you with that. The second one is, learn how to separate advisory as a service versus advisory as a value proposition. Most of us believe that we give our clients good advice, but we don't charge for it, which means that for the time being, advisory is just a value proposition. It's just something that adds value. But I believe that when you charge for advisory, people pay attention. So you probably know this. You give clients suggestions all the time on what to do and how to do it, and they don't pay attention to it because you never charge for it. But when you say, I'm going to charge you for advice, and we sit there and you give them the advice, they will do it because there's sort of this vested interest because they put money on the deal already by paying for the service. So we're going to explain the difference between advisory as a value proposition versus advisory as a service, and how charging for advisory creates context around the actions you want your clients to take. Unfortunately, skin in the game is one of the most important things to get people to act or react. And of course, we're going to have an open discussion around the tools that will help you create a great advisory experience. Some of these tools could be apps and stuff like that. We can talk about that briefly, but that's not what this program is about. But it's going to be mostly around mental tools, right? What language do we use, right? What words do we want to use or not use to have a great advisory experience, right? What follow-up process do we do to follow up that the client is taking their actions? All right. So on the last 15 minutes, let me quickly talk about what the workshop will look like. Obviously, the purpose of this presentation is to sell you on this. So I'm being completely honest with you. I do want to fill the program up. We have 10 spots left, and I want all 10 spots to come from this webinar. And we'll have until Thursday to sign up on that. It starts November 18th, ends December 20th. It's 4 weeks, but there's a small break for Thanksgiving. The price is $3,250. Use the coupon ALT10 for $750 off. This is limited to 10 people. You have to commit. You're going to have to commit 8 to 12 hours a week for the learning webinars, the group meetings, the exercises, and the feedback sessions. It's going to be 12 p.m. Eastern time. 12 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to meet 3 times a week at 12 p.m. Eastern time, 9 a.m. West Coast. So we're going to meet 3 times. First, we're going to learn about the framework. We're going to do a sort of a much bigger deep dive about this and assign the homework. Then you're going to meet as a group on Wednesday to do brainstorming. And then on Friday, we're going to do feedback. You're going to present. You're going to present your plan, and we're going to give you, Michael, your group team, feedback about which direction you should take so you can keep evolving your plan. So you go to hectorgarcia.com/Altaccountant. Just click on the link, use the coupon code, and I hope to see you there. So let's open it up to Q&A. So Michael, maybe you were reading the questions for me. You want to?
Yeah, I answered many of the questions most people asked about where the slides were. One question, are meeting times already set for the workshops?
Yes, that will be 12 p.m. Eastern time, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Great. And then the another question that was asked, it was more specific about the content you were sharing, and it was if your niche is many different service industries like marketing clients, IT clients, should you niche down even farther in the industry in your positioning statement?
That's a great question. I think specifically if you have a specialty that's more around the work that you do, okay, so the specific problem you solve, then you don't have to have a industry niche. So for example, let's say that your specialty is cleanup, just cleaning up QuickBooks files. Then you don't need a specialty need, but then you don't do anything else. You only do cleanup. Like for example, I know this guy, his name is Matt Clark. All he does is shrink QuickBooks desktop files. He doesn't care about the industry. He doesn't care what type of company it is. They have inventory, non-inventory, payroll. He doesn't care about any of this stuff. As long as they use QuickBooks Desktop and the files are too big, he shrinks them. That's the only thing he does. He charges between $2,000 and $3,000 per job. He literally works from like a Winnebago. He just rides around the country. I mean, so if you're really, really good and you have a unique way that you approach the work that you do, then you can just do it around the specialty. And to double check, the meetings are going to be between an hour and an hour and a half long. So you want to carve out a little bit more than an hour, no more than 2 hours. So about an hour and a half, the three times a week.
That's great. And no other questions. I think we answered all of the ones that came up.
I did a couple of direct. I did a couple of direct ones, which I want to go back on specialization. One of the biggest concerns that people have is, do I need to drop my current clients? And I did cover that, but I want to make an additional comment to that. Let me go to that slide. Okay, I think it was here somewhere. Okay, you don't have to drop your current clients. That means that you can keep them, but there is a strategy to get rid of them. So I'm not saying drop them off now, but the idea is that you do at some point only work with those clients. Now, one of the things that people do is they create a second brand. So let's say, for example, you have a generalist practice now. You have a whole bunch of clients. You don't want to touch it, but you have an idea to work with one specific niche or target. You create a separate brand. It doesn't have to be a separate company. Just create another logo, another business name, and then focus on advertising under that brand name. You can allow all the current customers and referrals and all that stuff to come in through the other brand, but then your marketing is only toward that brand, because you want any customers that come to that brand to be premium priced customers. As I mentioned earlier, when you are focused, you can charge more. You can charge more. I told a story at QuickBooks Connect. There was a guy that was known for putting out oil fires. He was the most expensive service provider in the entire oil industry, but he was really, really good at just putting out oil fires. And he did them by exploding them. He added more fire to them, and it was a very unique process. It was a very unique offering that he made. And he has a famous quote that it's one of the most famous quotes in the world, which is, if you believe that hiring a professional is expensive, wait until you hire an amateur. That was his quote. And I love that quote, right? So being an expert in the field, it's supposed to create a stronger brand for you to charge more because you are a specialist. Oh, somebody's saying, is there going to be another cohort in the future? So yes, we're going to do one after tax season, probably late April or early May. It's not scheduled yet. I mean, it depends on how much interest there is. But for the time being, we want to help the people that want to start 2020 with a bang, and that requires us to do it now. I mean, really, we need the 4 weeks. It's impossible. Let me push over to the last slide. It is impossible to go through this much transformation in less than 4 weeks. And I condensed it. It used to be a 6-week program. We condensed it into 4. We're going to be hyper focused, but between now and the end of the year, tax season starts. There really isn't that many weeks that we can choose. So it's really sort of tightly, it's tightly within the, I mean, if you want to take action and you want to be part of it, I think you should do it now.
Hector, there was a question about, is this about creating another brand or a new company, or is this about working on your current firm?
Yeah, so good question. So for the people that already have a specialty, or they're working on a specialty, the idea is to further develop that idea. So let's use this program to just make your plan even better and stronger. For the ones that feel they don't have a really strong brand, and they take any client that comes in, the only requirement is that the mirror fogs when they breathe in front of it, right? So if you're sort of an ultra generalist and you want to move into the system, where you value price, you specialize, you create productized services, and you focus on advisory, you can do it within your brand. But for those folks that have already a big company, a big brand, and they like this idea, but they don't want to disrupt their current system, then my suggestion would be to create a parallel brand and invest all your marketing in that parallel brand and work in parallel. Run your firm like normal, but only market to new people with this philosophy.
Great. No other questions that I can see. Nope.
Okay, another question that I have, and it's actually quite common, which is, what happens when you get, this is more on the value pricing stuff, what happens when you get a customer where you don't know the scope, right? How do I give a fixed price to someone when I don't know the scope? And there's a specific technique that we're going to teach in it, which is called the actuarial technique, which is to basically list out all the possible things that could go wrong and break it down into buckets of probability. So we're going to list out 4 possible things, right? What we know for sure is going to happen, right? We know we're going to reconcile the bank. We know you got 6 bank accounts. We know you got your 12 months behind, whatever. You put that on this bucket, the stuff that I'm 100% sure we're going to do. Then we go on the second bucket, which is the stuff that might happen, right? Due to my experience, this might happen. And then you create 4 buckets and you list every possible thing that could go wrong. And if you're an expert in your field and you know what you're doing, then you should know what could possibly go wrong. You list them out and you give it a probability. And then you price it as if you're doing the whole thing times the probability, and then you come up with a price. It's a really powerful exercise that we do for value pricing. So that's going to be part of the learning process. Okay, somebody's saying, I want to sign up for the course, but I'm worried that I might miss a session or 2. So as long as you can make up for it, so we're going to record all the sessions. So if you miss one, you're going to have access to watching. It's going to be a private video. You're going to be able to watch it. So that's the only thing I can tell you. But if you plan to miss a lot of them, don't do it. You have to be in most of them. But if you have to miss 1 or 2 sessions out of the 12 sessions that we have, that's likely to be okay. Plus you can watch the recording and you can always get one-on-one feedback from Michael and I. I think that's it with questions. Michael, you have anything to add?
I'm looking forward to doing this with Hector. This is, I'm not saying this in jest. I really mean this. This is some of the deepest and richest content that I've seen Hector teach. I saw him teach in QuickBooks Connect last week. Packed room. The impact was palpable. And so if you want to go deeper, if you were there last week, you want to go deeper, or if you're new to this and these concepts, this will transform your practice. If you do the hard work, this will transform your practice. And I'm looking forward to, providing some mentoring coaching during this time, as well as Hector is. You can learn more about me, on the internet, as well as Hector. Everyone knows who Hector is. The things he's teaching in this workshop are transformative. And if you take it seriously, you can have a firm that will both be innovative and also last the changing technological revolution that's ahead of us. So I'm looking forward to this, and I'm learning every time I hear this stuff. I'm learning more and more as I dive into it, and looking forward to helping shape the advisory section as well. And we do a lot of advisory at my firm, Reconcile, and so there's going to be a lot of great content as well as great feedback you'll be getting for both Hector and I.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll add here is to lower the risk level of this a little bit. If you go through the first week, right, it's 4 weeks, you go through the first week and you don't think you've gotten more value out of anything you have ever learned, ever, I'll give you 90% of the money back. Now, why not 100%? Because I want you to have some skin in the game too, right? So I'll charge 10% as let's call it administration fee, because I have to shift groups around if people get out, okay? Because this is going to be based on groups. So we need the groups to stay tight. But if anyone, for whatever reason, the first week is not transformative by itself, we'll give you 90% of your investment back, right? So I wanted to make that commitment to you as well. All right, so I think we're all done here. There's no more questions. Mike, thanks for helping me field the questions. We already had 7 people sign up. That was awesome.
That's great.
So which is great. So we're almost there. Hopefully, if you want to get on it, you get on it right away. And I'll see you.
Oh, one quick question,
Yeah.
Hector.
Oh, yeah, sure.
If I have a large tax practice, would you recommend doing this now or after tax season?
Oh, now, absolutely. Let me tell you something. If you have a large tax practice and this changes the way you think, and then on December 21st, when this is over, you send an email to every one of your clients saying, in 2020, we're going to have a brand new pricing philosophy, a brand new type of engagement. First couple of weeks of January, I'm meeting with all my top clients to explain how we're going to work moving forward, why I'm focused now, why I'm only working for the type of client that I can cause impact to. If you can do that, you can transform your practice from day one. And what's better time to do it than before the influx of work comes in, when all the cash flow comes in, when you fear the least making changes. So that's my take on that, Mark. So it's up to you really.
That's great. Well, that's a great sign off, Hector. Great job, and looking forward to the next 5 weeks.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for attending.